Thank you very much, members of the media. This is a very challenging moment in the history of the country. The executive has called an extraordinary executive committee meeting to deal with extraordinary issues. Present today is the executive committee of the PSL. Mr. Stanley Matthews has just recused himself. He's going for a medical checkup at 3. Mr. Mtaung is dealing with a bereavement which is taking place tomorrow. That's why he has recused himself. The executive was present. Everybody was available. Our legal counsel was in the meeting. Our head of medical, Dr. Pide, was also part of the meeting of the executive committee. We are gathered here because of the statement made by our Honorable President. The take-home for us as the executive committee of the PSL and football at large is that the government has prohibited the gatherings of in excess of 200 people, which is a challenge that is posed to the PSL and everybody. It's important also to closely follow the international developments on the pandemic. The infections around the world now outnumber those in China, Europe, and is now the new epicenter of coronavirus. The nature and spread of the coronavirus matter. One person is all it takes for hundreds of people to get infected. Transmission can happen through proximity. People not necessarily touch, can also be picked up to infected surfaces. So an infected person can leave it for others to pick it up later. This makes these infecting places that people occupy equally important disinfecting people. It is therefore important to closely follow the science of the virus. There's an important need for a flow of information that is credible and disseminated from one source. The amount of disinformation and conspiracy theories is going to increase with the increase of infections. This is probably the last day of conducting football business in life as usual manner we have become accustomed to. This press conference, we are seated here today, journalists sitting across is going to be changed format in the future. With technology replaces most of the physical interaction, I suspect. The PSL has always played its national interest role. Together with our broadcasters partners, we'll join to communicate the all-important prevention messages to the millions of viewers and listeners that follow the PSL matches through television and radio respectively. But also it's very important for us as a PSL to adjudicate, the issues raised by the President in a diligent manner that balances the most important thing, that what role we play the PSL is not increasing the spread of the virus. As the most important measure, the Executive Committee this afternoon resolved, one, that the games played, tomorrow and Wednesday are all suspended. That games in the weekend also are suspended. That there will be an urgent meeting of the Executive Committee and the Board of Governors on Thursday, the 19th. We will be discussing these issues and canvassing and giving them information that is available to us. Because there are challenges that you are being faced at this point in time. But everything we're going to be discussing is not going to mitigate or underscore the challenges faced by the country, which we see unfolding in other parts of the world. The League also took a decision that the Diski Challenge on its own, which is a separate thing, is discontinued immediately. But the issues that affect the League itself will be canvassed with the Board of Governors on Thursday. Take into account the 100 people limitation that is imposed by the President. What does it mean? We'll be engaged in the stakeholder management, engaging the Minister, the National Commissioner of Police, on all stakeholders, so that when the time we go to the meeting of the Board of Governors, we're in a position to give a position of the PSL about the way forward. As we're discussing, somebody says in the meeting, let's suspend the season. The question that comes up, what happens to promotion and relegation? What comes up is the playoff. What comes up is the question of the traveling, essential traveling, non-essential traveling. There's a lot of issues that are on the table. But what is important, as a board of governors, together with the clubs, we're going to take a decision that is in the best interest of the country to make sure that we are acting in a responsible way. But make sure also we do things that are assisting in the process. Because there's other gray areas that we want to clarify with the minister for us to be able to provide proper leadership. And we're enthused as the executive committee that the minister did acknowledge that as the PSL were the first to be responsive in terms of coming with precautions and caution insofar in making sure that we mitigate against the spread of this virus by suspending the handshake and making all other necessary things to make sure that we respond to the call of the government of playing our role in our spheres of influence. And that's why we're going to continue in that path to be supportive of what the government is asking us to do, especially of the share of the voice that we command as the league. As the biggest event organizer in the country, I think it's incumbent upon us to act in a manner that's going to assist in making sure that we take into account also the expectations and the sensitivities of the sponsors, which were part of our meeting this afternoon, to share with them what is our way forward, also to understand from their side what is their point of view insofar as these issues are concerned. And that's why there was no answer that we gave them, but we gave them our thoughts, which we're going to present to the Board of Governors on Thursday. Only after Thursday we'll be able to give a directive as what's going to happen beyond that point. So at this point in time, it's important just to announce that the games for this week are suspended until further notice. We're having a Board of Governors meeting. We'll be engaging with the Minister, Commissioner of Police, Minister of Police, disaster management. There's a lot of other legal issues that we need to deal with, because by the time we finish and give a way forward, we know that we have taken into account all issues that requires our attention and to err on the side of caution. So this is what the PSL Executive Committee has asked me to convey. And I think I'm prepared to stand. If there are any questions, clarification that are required, I'll take them standing where I'm standing at the moment.
Joseph from Sports. Chairman, looking at what you've just brought on the table now, what is the worst that could happen should the virus not be contained? Will the suspension still continue?
What not being contained?
The virus, should the virus not be contained, what is likely to happen to the league now that the suspension is just a part-time thing, depending on what comes out of the whole medical procedures that are being dealt with? What is the worst that could happen to the league this season?
The government said is monitoring of the situation day by day, week by week, month by month. I can't preempt anything. But what I know that was still in the first phase of other things, but that's why we're taking precautions that we don't want to exacerbate the situation. Because we are, fortunately, as a country, we've been proactive in addressing this matter in the way we've addressed to contain this matter urgently, early, when it started. So I think it's very important for us to be part of that solution. So we cannot preempt anything at this point in time. That's why the meeting with the stakeholders, engagement with the ministers, with other stakeholders is going to assist us in forming a position as to what's going to happen in eventuality. Because there are a lot of other legal issues that must deal with as a league. It's not as easy as playing an ordinary competition in the grounds where we can just decide a call off. There are a lot of implications. Like I just making one of them. What happened with promotion and relegation? So you look at internationally, the guys have said no, they suspend until the third. I'm suspecting that applying their minds as what's the best solution under the circumstances. And if you follow the English league, There's a lot of discussion about the various clubs. What must happen? Some say suspend or maintain the league as it is. Others said, no, I want to go to the Champions League, take the last form of the 5 games that were played now, all sorts of things. So we want to go that route. We want to see what is the best interest of football, but importantly, what is the best interest of the country. Because life is very important more than any other thing. So the decision we're going to be taking now is to make sure that we add in the voice and also in the management of the virus that is facing the country, because there's no benchmarking of it. So therefore, we've got to err on the side of caution, take everything step by step. Hence, the issues that have been raised by the President, communicated in the press conference today, it would be nice also to get them unpacked, when we engage the Minister, to be sure that if you take a decision, a position is supportive by the structures of the government, it should not be our own issue as a football, but in the interest of the country as a whole.
Thanks, Chair. Support Hobani from ENCA. I can imagine this is, it's a worldwide problem, this virus. Now, with regards to the game tomorrow night, Orlando Pirates and Sundowns, in terms of measures, I can imagine the supporters who already have the tickets. Do you have like a special plan for that? Thank you.
Well, I think, this is a state of, not an emergency, national disaster. It's a force majeure. If there's force majeure, there are issues that follows beyond that point. And I'm told there are plus minus 12,000 tickets that have been sold this far for that game. So it's easy to manage. That's why we wanted to have this press conference now to give everybody heads up. Players must not go to camp. People must not travel and book in the hotels. There's a case in point in Japan where people, were booked. In fact, the Grand Prix, they said we cannot refund the money that you're asking for because the hotel is available. Come and take your hotel. But imagine there's a virus, people are being died, say, no, come and take your hotel. So we're trying to avoid that thing for the traveling supporters. The issue of other refund and the other things, that is the issue that is easy to deal with, especially somebody who's got this ticket reported at the right place, not the one that have been forged, and we can't pay for those ones. So I think that will be engaged by the CEO's office with the respective club, because as we speak now, we have not informed the clubs. This is the first press conference. We'll be briefing the clubs after this as to what must happen in terms of addressing your question.
Chairman, Benjamin from Newsroom Africa. I know you spoke of not preempting anything at this point, but the President has already declared a ban on 100 plus, and it's not only for a week. So has there been any talk, maybe in the meeting you've had, about perhaps playing behind closed doors if you decide that after this week play continues? That's why this 100 people limitation, we need to be clarity on it, because we can't take a position right now. By the time we go to the Board of Governors, we should have clarified this meaning of this 100 limitation. What does it mean? Before you even embark on the closed door, whatever, all those things. Let's err on the side of caution, get proper information first. So they must be in sync with the government in thinking and the government strategy long term. So they must not do things differently from what they are thinking. So for us, it's just to get an unpacking of this 100 people limitation. I think it's very important for us. Then we can have options available to the Board of Governors, which must take a decision on behalf of football in the interest of the country.
Chairman, Chair from Kickoff. With fixtures being suspended, Chairman, has there been talks about training? Do players still report for training as usual over the course of the next week, or is that still a decision that will be taken on Thursday?
Well, we are suspending the fixtures for this week. It means they must continue training, because there's a lot of things that must happen. Whether we suspend the games, we continue the games, head of medical is busy dealing with measures of how best to make sure that even if we take any other decisions, there are things that must be strictly followed, by everybody in football, in the best interest of their families, of other people that are closer to them, the country as a whole, to make sure that we act, especially as influencers. Football players are more influencers than any other person I can think of in this country. So therefore, it's very important they must play the leading role in making sure they do the right things. I saw a song the other day, which I was sharing with the executive committee. People were singing about the corona, and you can imagine if the players are singing that song also, using their hands, not using a mask, it's a corona, You know what I'm talking about. Very, he belongs to that club. So, but for us is to make sure that we do the right thing.
Thank you. Chairman, there's also been some bit of misinformation in the past few days on stories reported about link of corona to some players at different clubs. At the clubs, what measures is the league trying to assist, especially medically, to make sure that this issue is taken care of?
That's why it's not going to be business as usual going forward. Hence, the head of medical is here. We'll be sending all that information to the clubs. We'll share with the Board of Governors to make sure that we strictly stick to that, for support, but also the team doctors also must do extra measures. There's a national, support in terms of the number given by the government, WHO, and also a national NCID, how best, to deal with the matter, to make sure that everybody make himself fair. But as a league, there are certain things that must not non-negotiable must happen with those players. But also it takes on the mindset of the players to accept this thing. We must take it as a by-the-way thing. Because sometimes there's this tendency of us to taking things easy. So it's going to be very important that those protocols are followed to the T. Whichever decision you're going to take is the interest of the families, because by traveling from here to your home, you say we abandon the league. If you act irresponsibly, we have met so many people in the club. We go to your place of rest, either in Mpumalanga or in Soweto or in Natal, having contacted people that are exposed to this thing. Imagine the damage that caused to your family. So it's going to be emphasized that it's important for now to self-quarantine in whichever way, and have disinfected and other things that are going to be attached, to that protocol will be dispatched to the various clubs as support, to the clubs. So if there's no question, shall I? The meeting we're having on Thursday will be less 100 people. We've emphasized that delegates will be 2 per club. That takes us to 64. So there's a leg room to play around. The executive committee are 9. So it won't be more than those people. At most will go to about 70, 75 to make sure that we comply. At the moment, I don't think we're less than 100. We're more than 100. But it's fine. I understand.